it, Phil.
Can it be the breeze that fills the trees with rare and magic perfume? Oh, no, it isn't the breeze, it's Jackson time. La, da, da, da.
Okay. Well, hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. We continue our world travels with Jack Benny, and we have our friends John Henderson with us today from This Day in Jack Benny. We also have our friend Terry Phillips here from
Hello.
Imaginaire Theater. Oh, and I haven't asked you today yet. Are we any closer to getting the episode out, or where are we?
We are. The script is in the hands of the casting director. She is putting our team together, and I am still waiting for. I have one actor's material already in hand.
Okay.
So I've got 4 more performances that I need to get, and then I'll cut it together and get it out, I hope, before the end of the month.
Nice. That'll be great. And then is this one of your bigger casts, or is it just a bigger?
No, it's 5 characters,
right.
But it's a long script. It's in 2 parts. I will tell you the name of the episode. It's called The Oracle of Delphina.
Wow.
And it has to do with dolphins, hence the title. And it will probably run between 40 minutes, less than an hour, but maybe 45, 50 minutes, something like that.
Oh, cool.
But in 2 parts, so it'll be easily digestible.
Excellent. I can't wait to hear it.
Me too.
And and as we've been waiting, I keep on airing more and more of the previous Imaginaires on multiple channels that I have, and so my audience is definitely getting saturated with the Imaginaire stuff from the past, and
thank you.
They love it, and so you just do such a nice job, and your intros. You got such a great voice for doing that.
Thank you, Darren.
Wonderful. Yeah. So if you get a chance to check ImaginaireTheater.com, get there, and there's, I think, 7 episodes so far available. You can listen to the ones in the past, and there'll be 2 new ones coming out fairly soon. So
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, let's get on with this. This is a unique Jack Benny presentation. It's short. It's going to be 10 minutes long. I really think our intro is probably going to be longer than that, but we'll see. But it's just charming to see him do just kind of his stand-up and how well it works. I laughed out loud at a decent amount of this. We're not going to give too much away, because I don't want to give much away, but there's one of the funniest bits that I've seen is the violin bit that happens in here is just outstanding, and just a payoff for anybody who's enjoyed Jack for many years will just love it. It's one of those bits that, if you were watching this is not the first thing to watch if you're going to catch Jack for the first time. It really plays on the history of what we know about Jack and everything. But just a wonderful piece. I've been having an argument online lately about Jack Benny. They had somebody put out a list of all the top stand-up comedians, right, of all time, and somebody was arguing that Jack should have been on the list and he wasn't on the list, or he was too low on the list or something like that. And I did a little argument saying, stand-up wasn't Jack's biggest thing. I said, he's really, if you were going to list the great comedians, or the great talents in comedy, he should be right there at the top 5. But as far as stand-up, I don't think of it. But this does show you how strong his stand-up was, and it was charming. So let's go over to Terry first. Terry, what did you think about this? What stood out?
This was the Royal Variety performance. The whole show lasted 2 hours and 22 minutes. It was a command performance. Queen Elizabeth was there. Yes, the same Queen Elizabeth who's on the throne as we're speaking. But the bill included George Burns, Sammy Davis Jr., Shirley Bassey, Maurice Chevalier, lots of absolutely top names from that time. And I agree with you, Daryl. This was Jack Benny at his best in a way that we don't usually think of Jack as a stand-up. There's one reference that some of our younger listeners or viewers might not get, and it's a reference to somebody named Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh was famous, among other things, for having cut off an ear. And So if you don't know that, one of Jack's jokes might not land for
Right.
you, but that's just a minor thing. What's more important to me in this brief clip is the thing that Jack is, I think, most appreciated for among comedians, which is his timing. You hang on every line, on every nuance, on every turn. And it's so deliberate, it's so slow, and it's so funny.
Yep.
For me, when he was holding a violin in his hand and about to play, and then stopping and talking, and then about to play again, to me, it is one of the great performances with talents that I don't know of any comic today,
Right.
or maybe ever, could pull off.
Right. And yet it feels so casual the way he presents it. It's like he doesn't have a bit, but he does have a bit. It's hard to explain. You just got to watch it and see this, but it's like no one else you'll ever see. And it's short. It's 10 minutes but it's 10 minutes of delight and 10 minutes of yet another facet to this wonderful comedian that we love so much.
And there's one last thing I want to say about Jack Benny, which is his universality. This
Yes.
was recorded, performed in front of an audience in London, England, and yet everything he said landed with them. Now, it is true that the British and other people know a lot about American culture, and Jack Benny was already, world famous,
Yes.
and yet they got every joke. And it wasn't like he was particularly tailoring it for a British audience. It's just that he was universal in his appeal.
Well, and I love the part, I'll just give away, this is not much, but just the fact that he was there in 49 and talks about how they demanded that he come back, so, or whatever. The joke is, yeah, because it's been a long time since he's been back there, but he plays it up really well. Anyway, John, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's interesting to hear the old radio show where he comes back from England and he talks about playing the Orpheum, how the audiences were, how he did, talking about his live performances. And I've always been like, oh, I wish I could see one of those live performances, or at least hear one. And I've looked to see if I can find any, recordings of live performances, and I have never been able to. So it was great when you came with this, and here is, a chunk of a performance of him on stage at the Orpheum. So I thought it was really interesting, and to sort of overlay that on top of, those parts of the radio show is really interesting. It was, when I imagined it, especially the way that he described it, it's always so, I don't know, I guess my imagination was different than this. This was more real, like the Jack Benny that we've seen already. And I'm like, duh, of course, it's Jack Benny. So yeah, I should have known.
It's not going to change entirely. He starts delivering lines like Bob Hope. That would be hilarious, but no.
Yeah, I do think it's an interesting question of Jack Benny as a stand-up comedian, because we've seen him on his television show doing some monologues and doing some straight jokes. And it's like, we can see what are his strengths, which is like the pauses, the looks, and things like that. And maybe some of his jokes are a bit predictable on the television show, but that's probably because he's got writers who are trying to, pump out content, especially by the end of the run.
Sure.
Whereas this, I think he's probably got a number of bits that he saves for his live performances. And so he's able to hone them like a stand-up comedian would if he's going from town to town. So yeah, I thought this was a great, sort of snippet of what Jack Benny's like on stage.
John, I'm so glad you used the term casual, because maybe more than his timing, that's what Jack's appeal was. It was like he was just talking to you. He wasn't reading scripted material, even though I'm sure this was very carefully crafted, but it just seemed so natural. Even to the point of the ending. I won't say anything about the ending other than that it was unique.
Yeah.
And believable. It was just, I mean, there aren't very many comics you can say have a perfect set This was a perfect set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, if you'd think with Jack, if you got 10 minutes, boy, he should be able to do a pretty honed piece for 10
Yeah.
minutes. I mean, the guy's been presenting for years and years and years. But just for the audience, but also for you two gentlemen, uh, I think you're going to be interested because one of the trips we're going to take, most of the trips we're going to take as we travel the world with Jack are going to be his episodes that were designed to be his tour of the world sort of thing. But I thought we've also been throwing in things like today's thing that's performing somewhere, but it's not part of the actual show. This is just something different. Well, there's a whole presentation that he did in Australia that is very much more the stand-up sort of thing mixed in with it's a whole special that he essentially does for Australia. And so we're going to be presenting that one during this run. And I think that one will be especially interesting to people because it's yet another kind of different piece that you're not used to seeing. So something to look forward to.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, without further ado, let's let them enjoy these 10 minutes with Jack after enjoying these whatever 15 or 20 minutes with us. So believe me, his 10 minutes are better than what we just did. So don't turn it off now, please. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that good, really. Thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen. My God, he looks so much younger on television. I guessed it, didn't I, when I walked out? But I want to say that I'm really very, very happy to be here for the Royal Variety Show, and I feel that this is a sort of a return engagement for me. You see, I was here for this same show, for the Royal Show in 1949, and I was such a big hit that they brought me right back again 12 years later, you see. Fortunately, I've had other work in between, you know. I mean, I don't depend on this entirely for a living or anything, you know. You know, I'm in television and I do concerts and benefits and things like that. And but anyway, here I am again. Of course, this may mean nothing to you, but the Prudential Life Insurance Company is thrilled at this thing. But you know, I must tell you, Friday, we arrived Friday, and I was met at the airport by incidentally, I wasn't introduced when I first came on, so those of you who do not recognize me, I'm Bob Hope, you see. But I know he's in town. I thought I'd take advantage of it. But when I arrived Friday, I was met at the airport by Mr. Delfont, who is in charge of this show. And before he even said hello, he walked right over to me. I got off the plane, and he said, "Jack, it's a very long show, and you'll do 8 minutes." Then as we synchronized our watches, he said, "Did you have a nice trip?" And I said, "Yes." And imagine I flew 8,000 miles practically to do 6 or 8 minutes. 8 minutes he allowed me. Let's say 8 minutes, that was it. And he, of course, I can't understand it. I was here When I was here in 1949, they allowed me 35 minutes, you see. But of course, that was for landing, doing my act, and getting out of England at this time. This I couldn't figure out at all because my great-great-great-grandfather was a British hero, you know. His name was Benedict Arnold. And we don't talk very much about him at home. But I must tell you, I have a doctor here. I'm not changing the subject or anything. It's about my arrival. But I have a doctor here in London who is one of my closest friends. And we've been friends for many, many years. And although we do not see each other often, we write to each other, correspond. And he worries about me a lot, this doctor here. And I'm not going to mention his name. First place, it's not ethical, you know. And then in England, I wouldn't save anything anyway. But he worries about me. He thinks that at my age, now that I'm working too hard. And he said, I can't understand you, Jack. Here you fly all over the country. You're getting older. It's time to sort of, you know, take it easy now. And, you know, you're doing television shows every week. And you never did that before. And you're playing nightclubs and all this. He says, why? He says, why do you do that? He says, surely it can't be the money. Now, there's a man who is a brilliant surgeon. But the minute you take off his rubber gloves, he's an idiot, you know. May I have my violin, please? Well, that's their opinion, you know. You could want about it. Mr. Collins, could I have a violin? Well, thank you very, very much. And I'd like to play my theme. You know, I must say that I'm a little bit nervous tonight. I don't know whether you can notice it. If my wife were here, she would notice it. And a funny thing, I'm only nervous because I'm never nervous where I should be in television, you know, where it's really my livelihood. And here, for some reason, I'm a wreck, you know, and I don't know, I'm doing it for nothing, you know, this whole thing. I don't know, maybe that's what's making me nervous. I don't know. But I guess the reason when I do, because I have done the command show, as I said before, and also a midnight show, The Night of 1,000 Stars. And the reason I'm nervous is because, well, when I'm out here in front of an audience and I'm surrounded by so many British stars, you know, I feel so unimportant at that time. It's like being stranded on an island with Marilyn Monroe and a boyfriend, you know. You have a feeling you're not needed, you know, in this thing. Could I have A, please? You know, I have been referred to, by the way, as the Van Gogh of the violinists. Because during my last concert, I was playing Mendelssohn, and a woman got up in the middle of the house and said, my God, he's lost his ear, you know, in this thing, and that's how we'll play, and, you know, I must tell you, just one more thing, and then we'll play. If I got just a half a minute, I must tell you, you know, Maurice Chevalier is on the show, and we're very good friends. So I thought, here's a chance. He's coming back to America pretty soon, you see. So I thought I'd ask him if he'd be a guest on my show. And he said he'd like to. And I told him it's a half-hour show. I don't pay too much for these things, you see. And I asked him what he wanted for about 5 minutes as a guest. And without hesitating, he looked at me and he said he wanted $7,500. This is for 5 minutes, you know. So I just stared at him. I mean, I don't know. I didn't bat an eye or move a muscle or anything. I believe they call it temporary paralysis. But anyway, let's play our theme song. Okay. Dave, why did you stop?
Your 8 minutes are up.
Oh. Oh, I see. Oh, well, I'm sorry. There you go. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.